My name is Pamela Smart. I've been incarcerated since 1990.
In 1990, a 22-year-old media coordinator at a New Hampshire high school crossed a boundary that should never have been crossed. She began a secret relationship with a 15-year-old student. Within months, that relationship later led to a planned murder involving several teenagers. This is the case of Pamela Smart, one of the most shocking teacher-student crimes in American history. It was the early 1990s in Derry, New Hampshire. Pamela Smart was not a typical high school teacher. In her late 20s, attractive and charismatic, she taught media studies at Winnacunnet High School. Students admired her, colleagues respected her, and on the surface she had a stable life. At the same time, her private life was not known to colleagues, students, or family. One student, 15-year-old Billy Flynn, was different. Smart noticed his attention, and slowly what started as flirtation turned into manipulation. She was married to Greg Smart, a hardworking man devoted to his family, but Pamela craved excitement, thrill, and control. Little did that student know that he had become a pawn in a deadly game. Pamela's affair with Billy wasn't just emotional, but it was sexual, secretive, and shocking. Texts, letters, and whispers in the hallways fueled a dangerous tension that no one outside could fully understand. Her desire wasn't love, it was clearly power. She wanted her fantasy life, no matter the consequences. Days passed by and Pamela's manipulation escalated. She promised Billy that together they could get rid of Greg, her husband, who was standing in the way of her perfect life. At first it was just talk and whispers in the night. But soon, Pamela's words became plans, and plans turned into deadly action. Billy Flynn, a minor at the time, became deeply involved in the situation as it escalated. Pamela had seduced him emotionally and psychologically, convincing him that murdering her husband was the only way to protect their secret and secure their love. It's horrifying to imagine a student planning a murder under the influence of a teacher's control. The more investigators unraveled Pamela Smart's life, the more disturbing details emerged. It wasn't just her affair or the manipulation of Billy Flynn. It was the way she had created a web of secrecy, so intricate that everyone around her, even her closest friends, remained oblivious until it was too late. Neighbors described a picture-perfect household with Greg Smart seen as the devoted husband and Pamela as the charming, energetic teacher. No one suspected that beneath this calm surface, Pamela had been plotting a deadly outcome. Her manipulation was meticulous. She monitored her students' reactions, subtly reinforced their loyalty, and instilled in them a twisted sense of purpose. Psychologists later noted that her ability to exploit adolescent vulnerability was chillingly precise. She combined flirtation, authority, and emotional control to push them toward a crime they would never have imagined on their own.
I never would have done it if Pam didn't tell me to. She was the first girl I ever loved. I pulled the trigger. God forgive me.
And yet, there was a surreal normalcy to it all. She would return home after school, host dinner parties, and interact with friends as if nothing had happened. This stark contrast between her public and private persona made the crime even more haunting. It forced the community, the courts, and eventually the nation to confront a terrifying truth. On May 11, 1990, Greg Smart was brutally murdered in his own home. The crime shocked the local community. Police investigation revealed a chilling truth. A group of teenagers, influenced by their teacher, had carried out the act. Billy Flynn, along with a few of his friends, had shot Greg, and at the center of it all, Pamela Smart. Billy and the other teens were constantly monitored, subtly guided and manipulated into believing that every step they took was justified and necessary. Pamela's ability to blur right and wrong in their minds was terrifying. She framed the murder as a form of protection for their secret and as a solution to a problem only she could define. The psychological pressure was relentless, and yet she never revealed the true depth of her intent to anyone outside her inner circle. Investigators focused on the difference between Pamela Smart's public behavior and her involvement in the planning of the crime. It forced the entire community to face an uncomfortable reality that evil can wear the mask of normalcy, and those we trust the most may be capable of orchestrating horrors we never imagined. As authorities dug deeper, the dark reality of Pamela's manipulation came to light. She had used her charm, her position of authority, and her intimate connection with Billy to orchestrate one of the most infamous teacher-student murder cases in American history. The investigation was intense. Detectives uncovered messages, confessions, and evidence tying Pamela to the plot. Phone records and testimonies revealed the lengths she went to influence these teens to commit a crime that she could never physically do herself. The courtroom was packed. America watched as the story unfolded on live TV and in newspapers. Pamela's charisma became a weapon turned against her. Witnesses testified about her manipulation, her affair, and her role in plotting Greg's death. The evidence was damning. In 1991, Pamela Smart was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, accomplice to first-degree murder, and accomplice to second-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Billy Flynn, a minor at the time, received a lighter sentence due to his age and cooperation with authorities, but his life was forever scarred by the crime and the manipulation of a trusted teacher. Cecilia Pierce, one of Pamela's student interns, provided the critical taped conversations that prosecutors said tied the whole case together. After growing suspicious, investigators wired Pierce with a hidden microphone and instructed her to meet Pamela in public places where background noise wouldn't interfere with the recording. In those tapes, Pamela never directly said she ordered the murder, but she made comments that prosecutors interpreted as attempts to coach Cecilia on what to say if questioned. Meanwhile, the roles of the teenagers became clearer as police built the timeline. Billy Flynn admitted he was the one who shot Greg Smart.
I pulled the trigger.
His friend Patrick Randall held Greg down during the attack. Another classmate, Vance Latine Jr., provided the pistol and drove the group. And the fourth teen, Raymond Fowler, waited in the getaway car unaware of the full plan until the last moment. Detectives also recovered the clothing, fingerprints of the boys. Combined with the Wiretap's plea deals and long interviews with the teens, the prosecution argued that Pamela Smart didn't physically commit the murder, but she had motivated, encouraged, and planned it. Their testimonies, along with the recorded conversations, became the foundation of the case that ultimately put her behind bars.
He said, "Why don't we just use a gun?" and told me that if I was to stab him, it'd get blood everywhere.
She'd asked, whether she should scream, run house to house, or just run in and call the police. How should she react?
She told Bill not to kill Greg in front of the dog because it would traumatize the dog.
The psychological manipulation she wielded over a teenager changed the course of several young lives, leaving trauma and tragedy in its wake. Pamela's story serves as a warning about the dangers of crossing boundaries and abusing trust. The trial revealed intricate details of her deceit. The case also highlighted the vulnerability of adolescents to authority figures who abuse power. Even after the trial, the case continued to captivate and horrify the public. Books, documentaries, and TV specials dissected Pamela Smart's life, exploring how obsession, desire, and manipulation can spiral into fatal consequences. Analysts studied her psychological profile, a mix of narcissism and lack of empathy. But the real tragedy lies beyond the courtroom. Greg Smart's death shattered a family, ruined lives, and left a community questioning the trustworthiness of those meant to educate and protect. The students involved had to live with the knowledge that their actions, manipulated by someone they admired, caused irreversible damage to them. Pamela Smart's conviction sent shockwaves through the education system, highlighting the need for strict boundaries and monitoring relationships between teachers and students. Her actions broke societal trust and became a case study for criminal psychologists and law enforcement agencies. Years later, Pamela continues to serve her sentence, a constant reminder of the deadly consequences of obsession and manipulation. The teenagers who carried out the murder have moved on in life, but the shadows of those events linger, showing how one adult's desires can irreversibly alter the paths of young lives. This story is more than a crime. It has been studied for both its criminal and psychological components. The power imbalance between a teacher and a student combined with manipulation and lust created a lethal formula. The tragedy of the Pamela Smart case is a lesson in boundaries, morality, and the destructive potential of desire unchecked by conscience. For us, it's a chilling reminder that charm, secrecy, and manipulation are real dangers. The story of Pamela Smart remains a historical lesson on how human psychology can be exploited in everyday settings like schools. The case also raises questions about accountability. How much responsibility lies with Pamela and how much with the teenagers who committed the act? Courts decided, but the moral and psychological debates continue. This is what makes true crime so captivating. Pamela Smart's narrative is studied in law schools, criminal psychology courses, and media ethics discussions. It exemplifies how media attention can both expose and sensationalize crime, and how the intersection of authority, manipulation, and youth vulnerability can end in irreversible tragedy. Despite decades passing, the story still sends chills. The idea that a seemingly ordinary teacher could manipulate a teenager to commit murder makes the story unforgettable. Communities have since taken measures to prevent teacher-student boundary violations, but the shock of Pamela Smart's case remains unmatched. Billy Flynn, the teenager at the center, later spoke publicly about his manipulation and the lasting impact of the crime. He described feeling trapped, confused, and powerless under Pamela's influence, which is a tragic reminder of the vulnerability of youth to adults. Pamela Smart's story isn't just about a crime. Rather, it's about human psychology, desire, and the deadly outcomes of blurred moral lines. It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions like, how far can manipulation go? And what happens when trust is weaponized? For viewers today, the case is more than history. It's a cautionary tale. The lure of forbidden relationships, secrecy, and thrill can quickly turn dangerous. Real-world consequences are never like movies. They leave destruction, grief, and lifelong scars. The media coverage also played a role in shaping public perception. Pamela's charisma, courtroom demeanor, and the scandalous nature of her affair captivated millions. News outlets debated morality, psychology, and justice, making it one of the most talked about cases of the 1990s. Despite her conviction, Pamela Smart remains a figure of intrigue. True crime enthusiasts analyze her behavior, letters, and interviews to understand how obsession, manipulation, and lust can culminate in deadly decisions. Her story is always a reminder that appearances can deceive and that the darkest intentions often hide behind the most ordinary facades. Even today, educators, parents, and students study this case to understand the signs of manipulation and boundary violations. The lessons of Pamela Smart extend beyond the classroom. They reach into human behavior, morality, and the consequences of unchecked desire. The story of Pamela Smart is a chilling reminder that forbidden relationships can spiral into deadly tragedy. What began as an illicit teacher-student affair escalated into murder, manipulation, and lifelong consequences for everyone involved. It's a lesson in human psychology, power, and the dangers of blurred moral boundaries. It is a stark warning for us that trust is precious and manipulation can have irreversible consequences. As shocking as it is, this case remains one of the most infamous examples of how desire and obsession can destroy lives. Always question appearances, recognize red flags, and remember that choices, even when influenced, carry weight. What do you think drives someone to manipulate, seduce, and orchestrate such tragedy? Could it have been prevented? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to our channel for more similar videos. Thanks for watching.